Hey, everybody, welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. My name is Dominic Rubino. Today, I've got Robert Whittaker for you, and he's going to blow your mind. And the reason is he's going to help you change the way you think about growth in the business. We're going to talk about how to scale a contracting business. Robert is a business owner who built his fencing company from scratch. I actually met him at a conference in Branson, Missouri. I saw him speaking, and I was taking notes like mad. So I know you're going to get a ton of value on how to scale, the challenges that we have, his campsite theory, and a number of other things, including something really super cool that has been stuck in my head since I heard it from him that he learned from Covey. And many of you know who Covey is, so that you're in for some good stuff here. I got a chance to meet Robert and his wife Vanessa at the event, and they are just solid people doing great work. So keep in mind, he's a real contractor, he's a real business owner. He started in the trenches, he's in the multi millions of figures now, and so he knows what he's talking about. I love getting guests like this where we can really dig our teeth into the meat of it. So let's get into the interview. I know you're going to love it. We'll see you there. Mr. Robert Whittaker, how are you, bud?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself, my man?
I'm great, and it's so good to see you again.
Oh man, it's good to see you too. I've been like jazzed all day. Well, I got a whole story about what I did to be where I'm at right now, but jazzed to see you, my
You
man.
you mean the 5 a.m. flight that you took in, or how you and I originally met?
Well, I guess both, but yeah, I wanted to be in a quiet place and I wanted to have great audio, so I flew all the way back to DFW to do this before I fly back out.
That's huge. Thank you for doing that.
Oh man, thanks for having me on. I've look forward to this.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Robert and I met at a fence conference because you're a fence guru.
Fencing. No, wait,
Fencing,
fencing, like building a
fencing.
fence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like building a fence, not the
Yeah.
Olympic.
Yeah.
What's the sword they use in that? The rapier, the rapier,
A, a
not the
fencing
bendy
sword.
sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're not that guy.
No, no, I'm the other guy.
You're the other guy. You're a fence contractor extraordinaire. But you and I met in Branson, Missouri, and I saw you on stage. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy. We got to have this guy talking to the audience because I really want to dig into how to scale your contracting business. And that's something you're an expert at. But let me back up. Can I back up?
Yeah, back up as far as you want to go.
Robert Whittaker, who the heck are you? And how is it that you come to be speaking to all these forward facing contractors all over the world?
Yes, appreciate it. I'm Robert Whittaker and I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas. And somebody told me I made it. And so they wanted to know how the heck I got here.
Yeah.
And so I decided to write it down, put together a program, and fast forward 2.5, 3 years, and I've journeyed where most people want to journey, and I'd like to keep them out of the mud. And I'd also like to encourage strong leadership throughout the whole thing. And I've got a servant heart, and right now I'm in an abundance mindset where I'm just trying to multiply anything that we touch. And so, what a better way than to connecting with other contractors who want to change the way people are viewed.
Yeah. And you're a contractor as well. Tell us about your contracting business.
Yeah, so Magnolia Fence and Patio. So that's the proofs in the pudding. We made it, depending on what you consider. We show a great return,
Yeah.
and we're constantly growing. We have easily bumps and bruises along the way, but we know how to persevere. We have fun with challenges,
Yeah.
and we do everything outdoor construction. We started with fencing, but anything outdoor living, patios, flat work, things of that nature. So for us fencers who love fence so much, we just call all of our decks and concrete flat fence.
You just go, oh, do you really?
Yeah, we
Just
sold flat fence. So that way we could stay in the fence groups.
you just call it flat fencing.
Yeah, we do flat fence.
Nice. And then when you put a railing around the deck, it's just a fancy fence.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. So
How'd you
that,
start? Because you started pretty humble.
yeah, so ground up, I have an identical twin brother, so not gonna hide from the fact that
I didn't
stood
know
out.
that. Yeah. How do we know that you're actually Robert?
Yeah, so Michael, he's my twin. He's actually on a plane to Ohio right now, so he couldn't be here, or else maybe we would have done a little switcheroo. But
Yeah.
we've only taken checks written by us our whole lives. So we owned a landscape company, and while we love the green industry, and of course one of the most recession-proof businesses, grass always grows regardless of how bad the economy is.
Yeah.
Grass
Yeah.
and hair really. We really had like a desire to build things that lasted a long time, right? Because we're big into building relationships, and you cut grass 7 days later, you got to recut it. So it wasn't as lasting as we were wanting. You install a beautiful landscape, same thing. You get a heat wave, too much water, whatever it is. And so we started Magnolia Fence and Patio about 10 years ago. Don't have time to get into our separation, but currently I'm just the sole owner of Magnolia Fence and Patio Purple Coaching, and he now just works as a contractor for us.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah,
And
well,
just so people have
specifically on the coaching business, I guess, on the coaching side.
oh, he does. Yeah, because you're a coach just like myself. That's why I think
Yeah.
you and I hit it off so well. But again, you and I are coaches who've also done it. Not, I got nothing against book learning coaches, like a guy who read a book and now says he's a coach, but they have their place. I more admire the people who've gone out there and got their head kicked in a couple times and stood up and said, maybe I should avoid that in the future.
Yeah.
How do I live?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I don't know your coaching style, but not that we loved watching our clients get their face kicked in, but
I meant me getting my face kicked in. That's how I had to learn.
But what I was going to say is that we say we're an extension of you, so we're just getting kicked at the same time. So you've got a battle buddy, somebody's willing to run into a fire, because it's not that we intentionally want you to fail, but if your vision is so big, we're going to find things that get us in a little bit of trouble, and we'll pull ourselves out of it. And it's just that's the rewarding part. The easy button gets boring, and so while I've journeyed before in a lot of scenarios, our world's changing so stinking fast that me and you, we don't have any magic tricks. We know people. We're in the people game, so we know people. We know the difference between right and wrong. And probably the biggest thing that I know is discipline. You wake up and you do what you say. So
it's funny you say that. You said discipline. I was going to say focus if I was to finish that question, but sticking to a good plan.
Yeah.
Just have a good plan and stick to it like a dog on a bone.
Yeah. I heard some the other day, a lot of people peak early. And so initially I thought like peak, like you sprint out of the gate and you peak and your performance peaks. And they said, no, peaking at the results. You just can't wait. You say you got a 1-year plan, and a month in, you just take a little peak.
Oh, like that.
And then all of a sudden you start worrying, are you far enough along? Are you too far? Should you pull off the gas, go further? And before you know it, you spend all your time thinking about what you peaked at instead of just focusing on what you know you should be. So
that's let me ask you this as a coach to coach. How much do you think that relates to a business owner who's doing that? They come up with a good plan, a good idea, they put it in place, but then they get frustrated. They want to have a look at their results before they've arrived. How much of that is a result of them being solo? Like really not having somebody else to talk it through with, somebody else to hold them accountable, somebody else to cool their jets?
Well, I think it's huge. Having either a partner or a leadership team or a coach to create that pause. We're busy people, and so sometimes we're wondering how we can get there a little bit quicker. But having somebody help us with the pause, or in our cases, we've walked the walk, and now we can talk the talk. We can say, "Hey, the journey is actually more fun than the destination."
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. Everyone's like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm like, at one point you wished to be here. So remember that, like, you had way more fun getting here than you are at the destination. But where we met was, I was actually talking about campsites and making sure when you're at a destination that you enjoy, or maybe you don't, but a lot of times we enjoy the destination and we don't enjoy it long enough. Hey, give it a little time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, whatever it is, because there are going to be times where it stinks. And we want to be there to run in burning buildings with you.
run in and run out.
Yeah.
Run
we know efficiencies in that for sure.
Yeah. I noticed that behind you've got a book called Traction, that black book with the orange lettering.
Yeah.
How much is there on that? You've got an interesting back shelf. Actually, before we get to Traction, a minute ago you had a football helmet up there. What happened to that?
Yeah, I pulled that down because I'm having to swap it out. I won this in a bet with my brother. I went to Texas Tech.
Okay.
So I'm a Patrick Mahomes fan, but my newfound friend Stephen M.R. Covey came to our office a couple weeks ago, and his son Britton Covey plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know I'm in Texas, so Cowboys and Eagle fan, whatever. But Cowboys are never making the Super Bowl, so it is what it is. So for all your listeners that are outside of Texas, I know
you got a bunch of people stomping their feet right now and slamming the steering wheel. And
no, like they're probably on my side. But anyways, so now I'm an Eagles fan because Stephen M.R. Covey, his son's playing in the Super Bowl 2 times, and he's 24 years old.
Good for him.
Yeah, so it's hard not to root for somebody who I actually have a connection with.
Yeah, like you know him. There's a connection. But so you've got the Kansas helmet. but you
Yeah,
have to
now I'll
take it
just use it
down.
as a foot rest, and hopefully the Eagles win, and I'll text Covey and be like, "Oh man, write that in your next book." 24 years old. Wow.
Well,
So
hold on a second. How did you come to be at a place where Covey is visiting your office? Because I think
yeah,
that's impressive.
yeah. Thanks. So we do an annual planning with all of our clients that come in. 'Cause I just can't get to everybody. We travel across the United States, and so, but I do believe in collaboration as long as we're all talking common languages. We're all relatively in the same trajectory of growth or whatever it is. And so I said, well, y'all hear me talk all year long, and you've heard your leaders talk all year long. Let's have somebody else pour into us. And
Mm,
Stephen Covey is an amazing person. His father was as well. But I love the book, The Speed of Trust, and now the new one, Trust and Inspire. And I said, I want a workshop. We don't want to be talked at. We want a workshop.
mm,
And I truly believe all things with trust move faster and generally yield either a higher return, whether it be on profits or time or whatever else. Because like I don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of time. And if there's high level of trust, we can maneuver our calendars accordingly. And so
right.
he came in and I said, Stephen, 5-letter word, one syllabus, and you were able to write multiple books about it. That's vision right there. And I mean, it's an addicting topic to talk about. We have these cards, these are trust cards.
Right.
It just walks you through when you get into complicated situations, just pull out the card and say, hey, I'm going to cheat. But so yeah, so Stephen came, most amazing human I've
Mm,
ever met. So I have two things that I'll share with the audience. So instead of like, how's your day? What'd you do this weekend? Like those are pretty common questions, and you're probably going to get common
answers.
responses. So one of my two favorite questions is, hey, what book are you reading? Like not anything else. Not like how's the weather? Hey, what book are you reading? And so
Right.
that would generate an incredible conversation. So he gave me some books. And the other thing I said, hey, what do I need to know about your dad that a lot
Whoa.
of people don't know? Because he was an amazing man. He said, I'll tell you this, Robert. Most people know this, but I don't know if they've ever heard it. He was phenomenal on stage. And I said, no doubt in my mind. He said he was even better man off stage. He
Yeah,
said, think
that's
about
great.
that. He's found a way to make that gap so small. And if there was any difference, it was for the better. He
Yeah.
said, and so I hope that I'm living in his legacy. And that's a great way to reflect is when we're on stage, you get in the moment, you're talking about the things that you wish you could, but sometimes you don't even,
Yeah.
practice what you preach sometimes. And he said, Robert, my dad closed that gap so tight you didn't know if he was on stage or off stage. And
So
that's
he
the
was
kind of
genuine.
man.
He lived to his values. He was
Oh,
consistent. Yeah.
yeah, it was killer, man. So super lucky to have him here.
You know what? Let's take a minute and talk to the audience for a second, and maybe I'll make a statement and see what your thought is. But the for all of you listening in the audience, your kids are watching you, and you don't know it. And maybe your niece is watching, and maybe the neighbor kid is watching. And what they're seeing is a self-made person recreate themselves every day, every contract, every promise kept. And to you and I, it seems like it's just what we do. But to other people, they're taking that as milestones, flags, expectations for what they're going to be in their life. You and I may never know that, but that's the impact every contractor's having in the world.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
I love that. My vision statement at Purple Coaching Consulting is to change the way people view contractors by changing the way we view ourselves.
Mm,
I
yeah,
used to
mindset.
think that I wanted to change the way people saw us, but in reality, us contractors need to take a step back and realize we impact a lot of lives.
Do we ever?
We have got a cool job. We get to go to people's homes. So it's talking about trust. People trust us in their homes, or maybe it's a
Yeah,
business, but in my case, it's a home.
yeah,
They trust that we're going to build something that they're going to build memories with because we do a lot of outdoor living, or we trust that build a fence that's going to hold in a dog or provide security. Like it
yeah.
all starts with trust. And so, oh yeah, everybody is watching what you're doing, and especially from a leadership level, your voice carries substantially further than
Yeah.
others. And so, what a cool way. I mean, we were given a microphone, and it's our job to have an abundance mindset and a servant leader heart. And
Yeah,
so,
and put good out into the world so that people
yeah,
can do good in their local market.
yeah,
I
and
like to remind everybody that when a contractor hires somebody else, when they hire one more person, and you and I show people how to do that, how to hire another person, first you've got to be profitable enough, then you have to have the right kind of clients to make it sustainable, then you have to have the right kind of work coming in, then you onboard and train that person. And I'll just say a laborer, just somebody who came in at an entry level in your business. You have to think that the job that you've provided that person helps them pay for their kid's tricycle or the turkey on Thanksgiving or just one more gift under the tree at Christmas. And it might seem to you like, we hired a guy, but it's no big deal. It's a big deal. You just flicked on a light in the world. Somebody's got more because you did more. You became more. And I think those are important things for us all to remember as leaders, is that we kind of, whatever, I'm getting kicked in the head every day. I really hit it on that deal and I didn't do great on that one. But really, you're hiring people and you're making the world different. And we forget
Oh
that.
yeah, no, for sure. And I want it on my shoulders. I'd much rather carry this at least perceived burden, right? At the time, we think we're getting kicked in the face, but when we reflect back, we're like, that didn't hurt that bad.
It's
I
fine.
got this. And surprisingly, there's a lot of people in, speaking in my organization, that are willing to take those blows with me. But sometimes we get selfish and we're like, hey, I can do all this on my own. People like helping people.
Yeah.
And, I know we'll get into it in a little bit about scaling your business is, eventually you're going to have to be okay with other people going into battle and working through all this. And listen, it's not a doom and gloom like being a contractor. It's just the common language we all have. But I mean, there are going to be days that you're going to have to make tough decisions. There are going to be days that your morals and ethics and values are going to be challenged. And why it's so important to have them is so that way you can reflect back and have your North Star and all those different things. Because if this was easy, everybody would do it.
Now let's actually go to the topic because you raise a great point. What was your vision when you started Magnolia?
And that's
Did you
probably
even
why
know?
we were
Did you have
stuck
one?
for a little bit. Just did it, right? Like I didn't. I love the pyramid with Maxwell. People work for you because they have to, and then they want to, and then they're inspired to, and so on and so forth. And I didn't have to start Magnolia Fence and Patio or Mean Green was the landscape company. I don't even know if I really wanted to. I don't even know if I learned enough that I just started. I just did. I just woke up like most people. It's like, I'm decent on my hands. I'm a technician. I
Yeah.
like business. I think we can get this thing figured out. There's nothing more glamorous, or there's no more glamour to that story. Literally just woke up. Now I'm a connector of people. And so that didn't take very long to go from just like kind of a hobby business to something serious. And identify my why very early on. And my why was exactly what you mentioned earlier, was like giving me goosebumps, is I freaking love the idea that I get to create this environment for people who deserve incredible things. I love people. And before I love my customers, I love my team. I love
Yeah.
my vendors. I love so many other people who don't give me money. And now we like those people too, but oh my goodness, those don't nearly last as long as the impact of these people. And so uh super love the contracting world because it's very labor intensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my why. For a while, I don't think there was any major problem. I mean, of course, you believe that some contractors could do better and answer phones, but those are all really simple things anybody could figure out. I just started loving on people. And I remember very early on, we were in a classroom setting and everyone's like, what's the number one challenge you're facing? Everyone's like labor, labor, labor. And
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the back of the room, I was like, I don't want to be in this room. Like they settled that for mediocrity. And so my unique superpower was to attract incredible people.
Oh,
And
because everybody else in that room was saying labor is my big problem. You're like, that's actually
yeah,
not
so they were
my.
and they were focusing on solving customer problems and this and that. And when in reality, if they would have just solved their people problem,
Mm.
all the rest of the stuff kind of takes care of itself. So that was my driver for a really long time. But now I got stuck for a while. We're talking about growth. I got
Yeah.
stuck for a while. And
Yeah.
now I have a new why.
Okay.
Can I share it?
Well, yes, share it and tell me what was the thing, the event, what happened to make you change your mindset? Because that I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's a
So
lesson as well.
yeah, so another day we'll have to do the campsites, but I was stuck at a campsite. We were
Mm.
about $8 million, showing about a 16 to 18% net. So like that's good, right? Like that's like bankers happy, everyone's
That's everybody's
happy.
happy. That
Yeah,
sounds
I'm
pretty.
making a decent check, everyone else is. And I knew we needed to move on because eventually we would have got caught.
Mm.
Excuse me. And I say caught as in like other people would have figured out what we were doing, copying and everything like that. But I was sitting at a John Maxwell leadership conference. I'm
Mm.
certified in Maxwell. And he said, Robert, we were talking, me and him, do you remember when you wanted to make your first million? I said, yeah, easy. Everybody knows that. He said, do you remember when you wanted to give away your first million? And
How's that for a mindset shift? Say
I
that
was like,
again.
whoa. He said, do you remember when you wanted to make your first million? I said,
Right.
easy. And he said, do you remember when you wanted to give away your first million?
Yeah.
And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
wow. He
Who do
said,
you have to be to give away
he
$1 million?
said, that's in an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
So quick math. I think the revenue has to be about 15 million. And what I've gone through and journeyed over the last, say, 6 months is time is so much more valuable than a dollar, right? Unless
Mm.
you get them comparable. And you did a great presentation on what your time's worth. And me and Matt Warner, who's at that event, have challenged each other. We took the equation that you helped us get to.
Oh, the revenue responsibility per hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
And every hour we give, whether it be to a community service project, we just knock off the $1 million mark.
What a
So it
great
doesn't,
way to look at things.
and so we even consider that with employees. Like, I think so many people get in this tunnel vision, like you got to give it to a church, or I mean, you get to give it to a church, or you get to give it to costs or whatever else. But what about your employees? What about some other people that need to be poured into? Maybe this, I think there's so many people in this world that have a tremendous amount of resources that people forget to love because they have it easy or whatever. They need to be loved too. They face burnout and all these other things. And so me and Matt, we're tracking our time and our money,
Yeah.
but we're going to get to the $1 million at least on year one, uh, giving away our time, our money, our
Mhm.
resources. But I had a paradigm shift. I won't get to $1 million on my back. So I started talking to my team this year. I said,
Mm.
how are y'all giving back? Like, we all agree. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, we're part of all these chamber of commerces and all this CASAs. But if we're just showing up for the free food, are we really living a life of significance? I said, we should get on the board. I said, yeah. Every committee, every board ambassador, then we would have truly genuine, authentic relationships.
Impact. It's so
Impact.
crazy that you say this. One of the things that I've noticed as a hallmark for success when I'm talking to a contract, so we talked to all sorts of contractors, some guys that are at that $300,000 mark and they're trying to make $1 million. And then the next conversation will be with a $10 million company that's just dreaming of 12 and 13 million. Well, life will be different at 12 and 13 million. But we kind of forget that along the way that it means something to go through all those phases. It's who you become to just think that way.
Yeah. No,
You know,
you're
just think that way.
exactly right. And there's just so much research on some of the things you should be thinking about along the way. Like 300,000, I'll give you a really good example. We know what the core values are because they are us, and we don't really have any people. So more than likely, we've got the core values solved inside of us. So you should be
Yeah.
thinking
Just be
sales.
yourself. Yeah. 300 grand. You're like, it's just me.
Yeah. So you don't really need to, I mean, if you have time, great, but shaking another hand, networking, closing a deal, maybe being the technician, you get to the $8 to $10 million mark. You've got to be leading leaders, and that's a huge heavy pull. And then you get to 30, 40, 50 million. And I mean, there's a whole different level of
Now you could be leading CPAs.
yeah, yeah. You definitely liability tax mitigation, because now all of a sudden you've got a huge target on your back.
Well, just wealth creation. And
Yeah,
not only wealth creation, but thinking about legacy. Like, what kind of legacy are you building for your family?
yeah.
And being cautious of the people that are hanging on, trying to just attach themselves without adding value.
And not knocking it, but could you imagine being 30, 40, $50 million company showing a profit and not having anywhere to put it? That's not very fulfilling. People like to be add value. And so part of the journey is finding the things that you're wise along the way. And for me, our legacy, and we're all, I didn't realize it when we were hiring, but we're all about growing growing young youth, specifically finding the leader within them, and giving them an opportunity to be a leader, right? And so that's our passion. But that all started with it came more clear when when we were asked to go to a career fair at underprivileged school, and I was like, there's gonna be like cool people like astronauts and whatever SWAT, and
Oh
there
yeah,
were.
there's
And then a fence guy came in. We were the hit of the show. One, because they could probably resonate, because
yeah.
more than likely there was some sort of relationship there with their family members. But we just talked simple talk, and while the astronauts were super cool, I think that they saw that hey, this is a real business, a real job. They take it really seriously, and they're making impact in communities. And so, for all the astronauts that are listening, they loved him too, but they really liked us a lot. And so we've gone around a lot of schools to let them know that the
Yeah.
blue collar trade is here and it's going to stay, and we support it.
Yeah. So giving back is a big part of the culture of your company, of Magnolia.
It is, and probably year one, we only just talked about it. We never really put it in action, and we didn't get discouraged. Year two, we talked about it and put a little bit in
Did you
action.
did you join trade associations and things like that so you could get around other people on that advanced mindset?
We did. I think where my biggest one was, though, is when I started connecting with different coaches and things of that
Mm,
nature, and realizing how many other businesses have an abundance mindset. It's just not as much fun, maybe, to talk about at a trade show or something like that. Like, people love talking about revenue or hardships, like, oh, yeah, I built that big thing.
yeah.
But like you and I have had some one on ones, and the
Yeah.
quality of the content is so different when it's just you and I versus in a group where everyone's just kind of sizing each other up. And so the trade shows were great. We have a great American Fence Association.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's great. And we have some other different groups. And by the way, for the people who can't just absolutely create a legacy on their own, most associations already have some sort of legacy planning. So hit the easy button, get familiar with those kind of things. And so, like, everyone's wondering, like, yeah, but I need to scale my business. You need to know your why. You're gonna. I don't want to be talking like direct, but if you don't know your why, you're gonna reach burnout very quickly, or
Yeah.
you're gonna
Why are you
pass the
doing this?
destination that you desired. And so, for me right now, it's like 8 to 15 is how we can be a servant leader. I won't feel like we've been successful if we get to
Until you hit
15 and
until
we
you hit
have.
15 million.
Yeah, and we have given back. And so,
Mm,
um, but before you get there, I was explaining the big vision picture. Hey, the reason we're pushing, like, for us, 4 to 6 million is a pretty uncomfortable stage. The reason we're gonna, eat this mud a little bit is because, could you imagine what we could do with our hands for other people and really inspire people? But they got to trust you as a leader. Like, I'm missing a few
you
soccer
can't do it
games. Or
alone. You're not going to be able to do it alone. You need a team around you, and that itself inspires you to do a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Heck, even if you set yourself a goal now, let's talk to everybody. If you just set yourself the intentional goal now of taking Friday off, I can already hear the Rolodex of everybody's mind going, I can't because. Write all those things down. Why can't you take Friday off? Well, I can't because of this. I can't because of that. I can't. Well, there you go, my friend. You just found some broken systems, some missing
Yeah.
systems. Go fix those, and you can take Friday off.
I
And
love
then
that. That's a
it's such
great
a
goal
simple.
setting
It's
exercise.
because
Yeah.
our minds all do that, right? We're like, I can't. Well, that I can't because is the corollary. It tells you what you need to do. So here's actually my question for you. Your This is a classic coaching question. If you're anticipating getting to 15 million, what are the three biggest bottlenecks or reinventions, mini reinventions you need to do inside your business to hit 15?
Yeah. So we need to appoint a leader besides me. From
Mm,
going from 8 to 15, it's not gonna be with me. The team knows very clearly that
perfect.
I'm the visionary.
Yep.
So we need to appoint somebody. Uh, we need to create a more systematic training program.
Love it.
And I can tell you right now, and this one we only need for a little bit, but we need commitment and buy-in. We can't start going to 15, and it won't be nearly as fun if we don't have the people that we started with. And so I understand not everybody will be at the destination, but we need to make sure everyone's in a position to at least try it.
Are you
And
talking about the
so
right seats on the bus, the right people
I
on the
think
right
we have the
seats on the
right
bus?
seats, but I don't know if everybody, like just because I want to go there because I was inspired by Maxwell
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean other people are, and that's fine. And I'm not gonna like slow my
I
vision down.
I got you.
But I got before we go very hard charging, we have to make sure people are inspired or bought in. They don't have to agree with everything, but they're willing to make a commitment.
Interestingly, all three of those had to do with people. Because what
Yeah.
I said, what do you anticipate your three bottlenecks being? We need another leader. That's not me. Number two, we need a systematic training system. And number three, commitment or buy-in. And
Yeah.
all of those are people things. Not once have we talked about driving fence posts faster, deeper. Not once
Oh
have we
no.
talked about beating up our vendors for better prices. What you've talked about here is building a team that's capable of doing that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like how you just put that in perspective. I wouldn't have been able to just say all three people. So great job there. That's breath taken away. But we are in the people game. And first, if you're $0 to $1 million, you probably need be one of the best at your trade. I get it.
Mm, yeah.
But eventually you need to be the best at game of business. When you get into depending of course what you're doing, but let's say contractor where you have cost of goods and stuff, after 5 or 6 million, your job is to be the best in the business, in
Yeah.
the business game. And so if you don't enjoy doing business, you need to find somebody who loves doing business and allow you to continue to do the hands-on tool bag type stuff. Now, for
Right.
everybody who's like, I just love the tool bag. Perfect. When you get to the 8, 10, 20 million, guess what? You still get to put it on, but now you get to go do it teaching a young youth leader. We did this incredible event where these children didn't have fathers.
Mm,
And so how are they, and not that the moms couldn't teach these things, but moms traditionally are there to teach nurturing and empathy and things of that nature and maybe simple tool skills, but the dads are typically the ones that are like, yeah, you just grab this hammer and hit as hard as you can and just
that's how you do it.
yeah.
I,
And so anyways, so we got to pour into them and just be not replacing their fathers, but be able to be a father figure. And so still got to wear my tool bag.
yeah. You
Uh,
just reminded me of something, Robert. One of my son's really good friends, unfortunately, his father passed away. And so they were over playing, as kids do. And I was putting up the nativity, and I put up it's a decent sized nativity around Christmas time. And so I said, "Hey, I'm not going to use his name. Can you hand me the drill?" And he looked at me like, "What? What's a drill?" And so my son goes over and grabs a drill. It's just a cordless, battery operated drill. And I said, "Have you ever held one of these?" He's like, "No." And I said, "Go ahead and hold it and pull the trigger." And he did. And then his arm started to go around, because it's got a little torque to it. He's like, "This is so cool." And it was like the first time my son saw the Power Rangers on TV because his older sister made him watch like My Little Pony all the time. And his face lit up. He was like, "Oh, there's this new world." And to your point about teaching kids who've never held a tool, maybe all they need to do is feel the power of a drill
yeah.
or smash a nail with a hammer. Heck, I don't know, split wood. Like there's something very satisfying about seeing the instant rewards of your labor. And hey, there's the giving back. Just teach a kid how to use a tool, how to read a tape
Yeah.
measure.
Yeah. Tape measure. Yeah. We sit here and complain that people don't know how to read tape measures. Well, what are we doing to encourage it? Right.
Yeah.
And so we got to just change our mindset. We've got to just say, hey, when I get to 8 to 10 million or whatever that dollar is, and you step out of the day-to-day operations, is how can we still fuel your tank?
Mm,
Just going to be looking a little different. And I can tell you that giving back to the kiddos and stuff like that, at least for us, is 10x more rewarding than working for a Susie a homemaker
yeah.
John Doe or whoever it is. So, but none of this is easy, and there's going to come with hardships. And so you're going to have to, when you get to destinations where you feel a little wore out, you got to replenish your tank. And I heard this yesterday. This is incredible thought. Your car typically, because there's some fact checkers out there, will operate the same whether it have a full tank or running on E. It will do the same stuff.
Mm,
We will not. We won't. When we're
mm-hmm,
running on E, we are operating substantially different. Our
mm,
creativity is dampened. Our intuition or grit or all those things are held back, and you can't just fill us up like a car. It takes some time to replenish. I can tell you this much. I used to think vacations, like I just
Yeah.
need to take some time off. Those things actually suck energy out of me. I like
Oh, they do.
yeah. I mean, there's an occasional vacation, but I like being busy. I like having value. So like, we haven't done one of these, but I saw one of my friends that is in similar season where they go on vacation and they give a give back day. So they'll go to Mexico or something for 4 days, and one of the 4 days they're
Mm,
giving back. I could get around that, but
yeah.
sitting on the beach, I deserve this and that, and whether I deserve it or not, that's not my jam. And so you got to figure out what fills your tank. You and I've talked. We have a lot in common when it comes to hunting, and things of that nature. So you got to find, the other things and make sure that you're not trying to balance them all at the same time because that's not realistic, but making sure
Yeah.
that you go hard when you need to go hard in whatever you're doing and be present. But
Find the
I,
thing.
I grew real fast at first. So for the average contractor, we're at 8. We anticipate probably taking this year because we've been kind of stuck at the 8. So I can't expect for us to, now we want to go to 15. We just turn it on. That would be dangerous. We're probably going to do 8.5, 9, but then we have a pretty strong growth plan after that, about 20%. But the first probably 5 years, we were growing at anywhere between 35 and 50%.
Wow.
And it was decently healthy because we were bringing on team members and things like that. But once you have your built out team, then you have to work on the SOPs and slow things down. And so, um,
Mm,
good rule of thumb, if we're talking about like scalability, is don't want to grow less than 10% because I want to stay at least even or ahead of inflation, right?
right. Yeah.
Um, and if we're not gonna grow, and we're gonna stay flat. We need to have discussions on why. Maybe we need to recharge batteries, and we're having constant conversations with our bankers,
Yeah.
big people on our P&Ls, right? Our insurance people, um, attorneys, and stuff like that, because they know some things we don't know. So for the
Well, they
people
can
who
see, they
are,
can anticipate the risks. That's why I like talking about bottlenecks because I
yeah,
don't mind. If you show me a bottleneck, I don't care. I'm going to attack it full force. And as I often say, I'll go over it, around it, through it, or I'm going to redefine it so it suits my purposes. But I'm not going to ignore the bottleneck. I'm just going to run at the darn thing hard.
yeah,
That's why I keep breaking my face because I don't care. I know it's there. We're going to hit it.
yeah,
Right. But interesting that you said, got to grow at 10%. That's a good number to hit, aim for. I have to grow. I have to be aiming for something, and I probably want to punch through it. Right. So if I want to grow at, let's say, 10%, I have to really, in my mind, try to grow at 15, 18% because it's just going to happen. 10% is going to happen. But if I go, let's try to hit 10%, me and my team, we're going to be like, we hit 8. We did okay. No, you
yeah.
didn't. No, you didn't.
Oh, for sure,
You
for
know,
sure.
if you want to be a 50, if you're right now, you're at that 8 million, you're talking about almost doubling to hit 15. And we're talking about it like it's nothing. Some people out there listening are at 3 and they're like, oh my God, we've been stuck at 3 for 3 years. Yes, you have, because you're running a $3 million business on a $2.5 million plan.
Yeah,
So, by the way, high five to you because you've totally crushed the $2.5 million plan. But now you need a $5 or a $7 million plan just to pull you through whatever your next thing is and who you have to become to get there, which is a big part of you. It's who you have to become. That's another theme with you, Robert. Like it's always you're changing who you have to become to get to that next thing. That's pretty cool to watch.
yeah. I heard a quote: "Before you go, you need to grow."
Mm,
And I think there's so much truth to that. Just because you want to doesn't mean you get to. You still got to learn capabilities. I think at some point your character is pretty defined, and you
mm.
stop becoming who your client wants you to be or whatever. Um, the power of saying no. I heard this other thing, and that's where we're attacking this essentially doubling the revenue is before we go multiply, we're actually going to divide. So we're sitting here thinking, okay, well, we got to two and a
Mm.
half, 3 million pretty easy.
Yeah.
So let's just start a bunch of small businesses within the business. So what are some divisions of what we currently, so we could, I mean, if we could grow the fencing business double, we probably would have already done it by now.
Right.
So it's either the passion isn't there or the competition is preventing us, whatever it is, labor force. So we did some dividing out and realized, hey, our patio business hasn't scaled as fast as our fence. So let's go ahead and do that. And this
Right.
is the first time, and I'm a coach. So like, I'm shocked that I've never done this before. I said, hey, I walked in, I said, hey, we know what the 2025 ideal customer is. And they're like, yeah, they listed
Yeah.
it. What's our 26 and 27? And he's like,
Ideal customer. That's a
yeah.
really cool exercise.
I said, so we know 25 is patios.
Yeah.
Like we know that, and we can go into demographics with patios. And so 26, everyone's like, more patios. I was like, no, 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 no.
No.
26, we're gonna do local work, local GC work, and municipalities. And then in 27, we're gonna actually go after. We're not gonna work nationwide, but we're gonna work for nationwide GCs. And they're like, wow, what an incredible plan. And somewhere in between all that is all sports construction. So we want to get our patio. We love sports construction, like
What
netting,
sports
padding,
construction?
sports fields, because
Oh, okay.
and I didn't realize like how much I loved it until I realized it just all aligns with the whole thing with kiddos and stuff. Kids are at their most purest stage, even adults, and maybe not all adults, but through college, you put the phone down and you're throwing the ball and you're just having a good time. Like,
Yeah.
the
So you
way
guys are
that
going to build sports fields.
yeah, so we just got off
Wow.
one. I'll have to text you a picture, but we do all the netting and padding for it. We didn't
Hmm.
actually do the synthetic grass on this particular project, but we know all about the soil stabilization, all the drainage, and but like for
Ah.
example, think about like a baseball field. It's got the fence all the way around it. It's got all the press boxes we can build because
Mm-hmm.
that's essentially a patio just for baseball. Dugout railings, and then the 40-50 foot netting. But it aligns with kind of our objective is to love on kiddos. And Matt Warner, who was at
Yeah.
Tony's deal, he got me into the sports construction, and his get back is he builds sports fields in areas that the cities won't do it because the tax dollars aren't where they're supposed to be.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty fun, right? And so then he just uses it for training because it's not every day that you get to go set a 80-foot pole 25 foot in the ground. So he goes
That's a
and
lot of
finds,
engineering, right? That's a lot
yeah,
of fence engineering right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he'll go set, anyways, he's a great guy. And so I've identified my target customer or ideal customer over the next 3 years. Because what we already
Brilliant.
know, what overestimated what we can do in a year and underestimated what we can do. They say 10, but let's just call it 5 because nobody's ever really thinking that far out. The world's
It's
changing too
fuzzy.
fast.
It's fuzzy. But I think
Yeah.
that's a really interesting mind shift that you've given us here today, which is we already know who our ideal customer is today. Who's it going to be at the end of this year? Who's it going to be at the end of the next year? And then the year after that? Because then, as a leader, as a business leader, contractor, I've got to start thinking differently to be that kind of person. And I guess really when it comes down to the people thing that you've identified, I have to start hiring the kind of people who can help me get there.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
pretty
And
cool.
I think it's fair for the person you're hiring to know your vision. So we never talk about what we've done. We talk about where we're going. And if
Mm,
that doesn't ignite them, we know they can manage what we already got, but that's not really why we're looking.
yeah.
We got these crazy ideas and we want people to love them and enjoy them and be inspired by them. And so we've spent a lot of time in interviews and things of that nature, really sharing where we're going in 27. So that way they can get us there in 25, 26, and then 27 is easy.
Yeah.
So,
It's, you and I are supposed to be talking about how to scale a business.
well, we are, aren't we?
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly. It's funny though that I think people might have thought you need this tool and you need to do this. But really, from what I'm learning from you here today is it's all mindset. It's mindset and future focus. Is that maybe, let me not put the
I
words in your mouth. If you
agree.
were to tell back to me, what would be the,
Yeah, I agree. So, for the listeners who need X's and O's, you just did a podcast with Joe Everest, and you said text you, and you can get the downloadable PDF or whatever. So, your show has tons of different
tools?
tangible things, but unfortunately, mindset's a little bit more challenging, right?
Mm,
So today we're talking a lot about behaviors, disciplines. You know what's interesting about we're just contractors? Every distraction we have is one we chose. Think about that. We choose our distraction.
every distraction we have is one we chose. Yeah.
It's our choice.
That's heavy. Yeah.
And so you could be I could give you everything about how to do bonding and insurance and negotiating with the bank. But if the distractions you pick are ones that are detrimental to your character, your
Mm.
reputation. I love the 3 R's: repeat, referral, and reputation. Then none of this works. And so, yeah, especially if somebody's wanting to go to 3 to 4 million and beyond, it really becomes, in my personal opinion, all about the person first, and the mindset. And so, mental toughness, but you don't have to be tough all the time. People are going to face burnout. My brother does an incredible presentation on burnout. He's a recovering burnout person. We haven't really, like, burnaholic, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, but I mean, you got to be able to identify when you're running on E and maybe say, hey, Dominic, take this baton. You run the next quarter mile. I gotta rest for a second. But this is a long race, and hand it back. And so power delegation and communication, trust. I love the back there. It's the 5 behaviors. So work in the triangle, like work on trust and have good conflict, commitment, accountability, and then results. Most people just want results. So, but it's the process that gets you there.
I think if you go back and listen to this interview, you're going to hear yourself talking about people again.
Yeah.
It's the importance of people to make all that happen.
It is. I think we'll find somebody who knows how to run a fence business, like the actual technical parts of pounding posts or wet setting, better than me. But if I can find the right people, then they can figure those details out. But yeah,
you're an inspiring leader. You'll for sure do that.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you're a command, control, comply leader and you're stuck at $3 million, the easiest thing we can change is the person in the mirror. Easiest. And if you're scaling at a crazy capacity and you don't feel like you have a whole lot of control, it's probably because you haven't learned enough to grow with it. And so it's time to slow down just a little bit and take a deep breath. It's okay. I love to learn a little and do a little, learn a little, do a little. Like what's interesting? The only way that we can determine results is through action. We can do hypothesis and all these other things, but without action, we don't really know the answer to the question or problem we're solving.
You've got to go test it. You've got to go test it and see if it works and readjust.
Yeah. And so I think failure is incredible as long as you reflect on it. And we don't do enough debrief around here. When we have a bad day, we don't debrief the bad days. We don't say, hey, where did we miss it? We just write it up. Bad day. Let's move on. And we don't learn from it. And so a big mission of ours this year is to reflect and embrace the suck. And
growth. Yeah.
Robert,
this has just been incredible. The amount of insight that you have on the mindset of growth. This really is what it's like to scale. You and I are having a CEO conversation. We could be in the tallest building in the biggest city in the world, having this at the boardroom at the very top. It would be exactly the same. And we, as you opened with, we tend to forget that as contractors, that we're leaders, leading people, changing the world, doing work we're proud of, building a team we're proud of, building a legacy for our family. All of that stuff comes to play here when we take a leadership position, when we decide at nobody's urging to go start a company.
I agree.
Right? It's just something in your head. You're like, yeah, well, I think I'll do that. And then you look around, you're like, oh, we're doing 3 million. What do I do next?
Yeah. And have to and get to totally different. People say, I have to answer this call. No, you get to. Be glad that somebody's calling to complain to you because they trust that you're going to be able to lead them out of this.
Yeah. It's, I like to say this to the people on my team when I'm about to delegate something a bit juicy to them. And they laugh now, but I open the conversation with, hey, Robert, the best surfers ride the biggest waves. And they're like, uh-oh, what's coming? And I'm like, well, here's the vision. This is what we're going to do. We're going to create this thing. And they're like, well, why'd you choose me? I'm like, because the best surfers ride the biggest waves. And I know you can handle that big, juicy thing.
Yeah, I love
that. Even just saying that gives them that confidence to go, hey, Dom says I can do this. I probably can.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a prop guy, so now I'm going to go get a surfboard. And, I've got Curious George behind me. However I point to Curious George, there we go.
Yeah.
Because I want people to remain.
Guy. Just before we hear, let me do this. Robert Whittaker. Can you see that? You gave me that at the conference, right?
Yes.
If somebody wants to reach you in this big wide world, how the heck do we find you? I mean, folks, you can see this on YouTube. That's pretty obvious. That's your this is one of your fence panels.
Yes, I know. Yes, so purplecoaching.com, Robert at Purple Coaching. I love that you put your cell out there. My cell's open to 817-995-0394. The most important thing is I imagine that we're very similar. We never really had a huge talk about this, but we want to help people as long as they want help. I'm not here to force advice onto people. I'm here to maybe experience share. And I think the most impactful part of my coaching career to date is the connections that I have. I have incredible people like you where you and I can mentor each other. And so whether they call you or call me, they're getting a piece of each one of us, right? And so the amount of work you and I do off stage is just absolutely incredible with one another and the Maxwells. And I love Profit First and Scaling Up. Harnish, I'm
All the
friends
books
with
back
him.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Here, look
Yeah.
at,
Right now I'm learning a lot from Alex Hormozy. Oh, you're reading Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. Great
yeah.
book.
Yeah. I teach that. This is like my third year teaching it. So,
Oh, no way.
yeah. Part of, well, the EOA group. So,
that's something you and I haven't even touched on. How many times do people on this show hear me talking about EO? And again, back to the best leaders are joining industry associations or finding other groups to be part of instead of like an old draft horse just looking at the ground and plodding forward and wondering why the day doesn't change. Look up. Go join a trade association. Go join your local builder association. Go to a coaching, like take a leadership course or work with guys like you and me. Nobody says you can't. The only person who says you can't is you.
I love what you said. Everyone got an invitation and you showed up. In a room full of what, 30 people?
Yeah. Everybody got invited and you chose to show up. That is a
Absolutely.
filter right there.
Yeah. If you go into these associations, I think it's important to have some sort of goal. But if you go in with such a narrow mind of this is what I need to get out of it, you're probably going to leave with just that. But if you go in with an abundance mindset as, hey, wide open, I'm here to receive. And I love the visual for the people who can see on YouTube. We have a tendency to hold on to things really tight, but how can we capture the next thing? But we hold so tight because we're afraid we're going to lose what we have. What if you just opened your hand? The thing in your hand probably is not going anywhere anyways. Right. And then your hand's open for more. And so I think sometimes people go to these associations and they're like that. The other thing that I think hurts people, and we could wrap up with this, is somebody told me, Robert, have you ever heard the quote, "Your ego ain't your amigo"? And
I've never heard that.
Your ego ain't
your amigo.
Your ego ain't your amigo. And I said, nah, that's great. He goes, I wish somebody would have told you that years ago. And I said, oh, with me, this is years ago. He told me this. He said, yeah, never forget that. Your ego ain't your amigo. And to that day, I had that rattle in my head that my ego typically gets in the way. So when you walk into a room full of associations and you pretend you're somebody you're not, all of a sudden imposter syndrome kicks in. And you know what somebody told me about imposter syndrome? The clear definition of imposter syndrome is somebody who's trying to be somebody they're not and impressing others through false perception. And I was like, I've never really considered that, but if you're trying to impress somebody, you're not being authentic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, your ego ain't your amigo, but I want to give a couple of the last couple of bullet points. I know we're going to wrap this up. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. So KPIs are critical.
Yep.
Specifically leading indicators over lagging indicators. So the difference between leading and lagging is leading will tell you things in the future, lagging will tell you things you can't fix.
They already happened. Yeah.
And don't set rules you're not willing to enforce. I think we get super hung up setting all these crazy rules, whether it be for people or for ourselves. But if you're not going to enforce them, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. You'll eventually get to the point where you'll have people who can enforce rules, but pick the ones you're willing to enforce and start there. And you better make sure you follow your own rules first.
Right. As goes the leader, so goes the team. I think that's straight from Vern Harnish in Mastering the Rockefeller Habits.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. Robert, great to have you on here. I think we're going to have you back to talk about campsites analogy that you use for climbing a mountain, because that is pretty powerful. So let's have you back on again to do that.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it, Dom. Thank you.
All right, man. Good to see you.